right now. Let's bring in Michael Rothstein. He is the Detroit Lions reporter for ESPN.com. Hey, Michael, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you guys?
Well, I'm thrilled to be talking to you, Michael, because when I was standing outside last night on Beacon and someplace, I thought, this is the time I die tonight. At 2 o'clock in the morning on a street downtown Detroit, after I've been warned by your PR department out there saying, you know, you really don't want to be outside. Nobody was offering to take me back to the airport Marriott, so I thought, you know, this is where I die tonight. And I won't even get a big boy hamburger. So thanks for joining us, Michael. And I bet you didn't have as long a night as I did. Yeah. So.
Hey, Michael, trying to figure out exactly how much stock we put in that Broncos win last night against we're not quite sure what Detroit is.
I can tell you, the Detroit Lions suck.
Well, they do right now. Yeah, they do right now. That's for sure.
Michael, do the Detroit Lions suck? Am I wrong?
They're not a very good football team right now. They've got a lot of issues. They can't run the ball. They can't throw the ball to Calvin Johnson deep, which was a hallmark of this team, granted under a previous coaching staff. But still, hey, Calvin Johnson used to be the best deep threat in the game, and they're not using him that way. Defensively, I thought they were better than they've been in the past, but at the same time, that's not exactly a huge step up because they really struggled against San Diego, and they couldn't stop Adrian Peterson from running the ball at all. So they're just a team with a lot of issues right now. They're making bad mistakes. Jim Caldwell is making mistakes coaching-wise from taking a timeout on a long Brandon McManus field goal. You look at it, everything is going wrong for them right now. And this is a team that really believed that they had a chance at having a really good season, and now it's not looking like that at all.
That sounds like suck to me. That sounds like a team that sucks. I don't understand, since you can't run the football. I mean, not you. I'm saying this generally, Michael. That can't run the football. That you got to go to those wide receivers. You got Golden Tate the third. You got Calvin Johnson, Megatron,
and you got the Broncos daring you to throw to Calvin Johnson.
You got a very nice tight end there that made a big play last night. I just don't understand why they don't do what the Broncos were doing. Just throw the football all the time. I mean, it just seems like Caldwell's convinced he's going to run the football, kind of like Gary Kubiak, and that's not going to work. I mean, you got to let Stafford get the ball off in a hurry. He's going to get really bad shape before the year's over. I was going to say get killed, but that would be figuratively.
Yeah, listen, they are very committed to running the ball. Jim Caldwell said it again today, that they feel like they haven't run the ball enough, which, I mean, they ran the ball 19 times, which is more than the 16 times they ran it the first 2 games, and their yards per carry were worse. So I don't understand it either. I really don't. Their play calling has been pretty predictable. That's been something that has been brought up since last season. So, there's just a lot of issues with this offense right now. They keep saying it's small things, but, hey, they've also lost 5 straight games going back to Week 17 of last year. So this is really a problem that started anytime they've really played good teams. And I think that's what it comes down to, is they play good teams and they lose.
Michael, how telling is it, and we referred to it earlier, how telling is it that the Broncos allowed Aqib Talib, a Pro Bowl cornerback, granted, to cover Calvin Johnson one-on-one, and Calvin Johnson couldn't quite do what the Lions needed him to do?
I don't even know if that's fair on Calvin Johnson, because they're not letting Calvin Johnson do what Calvin Johnson does best, which is go deep. When you're running Calvin Johnson on quick slants and hitches, you're not taking advantage of Calvin Johnson being 6'5", and even if he has lost a step, and he turns 30 years old tomorrow, so you can argue that maybe he has lost a step and a half, he's still going to be able to run a 4.5. But they're not running him down the field. They're not throwing him down the field. There's a lot of reasons why that could be, including Matthew Stafford being hurt, and he's been hurt since the first series of the second half against San Diego. But they also haven't really called many plays to even take some deep shots. They've really only taken 1 or 2 all year with Calvin. One of them was picked off, but with the pass interference call, and that was against Minnesota. And they took arguably 1 or 2 last night, but they're not using him how he has been used in the past, and that was under Scott Linehan, but that whole offense is different, and that's a big question right now as well, is are they even using him right?
I saw one of the papers in Detroit, one of the accounts out of Detroit, maybe it was your story, that maybe the problem is not Caldwell, maybe it's not Matthew, maybe it's not Calvin, maybe it's the offensive coordinator's not doing the right job with it. Because, I mean, if you could sit there last night and watch what Peyton Manning did with his two receivers, where he threw a balloon to both of them, and they just beat the defenders and got him. And Calvin Johnson, is that just throw him up and let him be athletic? Because there's not a cornerback in the league that is within 4 or 5 inches of his height, and you think that you just, hey, he's athletic. Let's throw it out there and see what he did. That's what Peyton did last night. That had to be disturbing to you watching the Lions, that they got the kind of guy they could have done that with.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and I asked Jim Caldwell about that today, specifically with the play calling, and he said that he doesn't think one of the issues is the play calling. He thinks it's the execution of the players, which I sit there and I watch it and I'm like, I don't really buy that, because even when you look at last night, even when the Lions had momentum, they would then run Joyce Bell. Joyce Bell, by the way, averaging 1.1 yards per carry, has not averaged more than a yard per carry since the opening week of the season. And the only guy averaging less yards per carry than Joyce Bell this year is DeMarco Murray. So I don't know why you keep running him right at a defensive line, especially when your offensive line is struggling to run block. Like I said, issues everywhere right now for Detroit on offense.
Well, I just said in St. Louis yesterday, the pyrotechnics started a fire. That was like a dumpster fire at Ford Field last night in the fourth quarter when what was going on. I mean, the Broncos missed a field goal. The the Lions have a chance to go down and win the game, and they can't even have a formation that's correct on defense. That's a team that's not being coached or play. You know, Caldwell can blame the players and their execution, but when you have 7 guys lined up on the on a field goal and give them another chance, that's coaching. That's bad coaching.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, listen, there is nothing going well in Detroit right now. But I mean, if I were to write just that for a story, I mean, that's the crux of it. Nothing is going well for Detroit right now. They have some players that are playing well, but other than that, big picture, nothing is working.
Michael, if they had to do it all over again, would they have let Sue and Fairley get away?
Fairley, yeah, because Nick Fairley couldn't stay healthy. He wasn't producing on the field even when he was healthy. And if they had lost Sue and banked on Fairley, it would not have necessarily gone well, because he's just not that type of player. Losing Sue really hurt them. Now, I've argued at the time when Miami offered him a big contract that the Lions were smart not to pay him that, because they do have a lot of other young defensive players, including DeAndre Levy, who didn't play last night, who they signed for contract extension. Ezekiel Ants is going to be due for a contract extension soon. Darius Slay, even though he got beat a couple times, he's a pretty good cornerback. He's due for an extension soon. You sign Sue to that number, you may not be able to hold on to some of those guys, and that's really a large future of your defense as well. But, man, they are a different defense without him. Most people knew that, myself included, but it's been stark how much that has changed. And, I mean, listen, it's not really going all that well for Sue in Miami right now either. So I don't know if either side, other than Sue getting major money, it really worked out for, at least in the very quick term.
With the Lions playing at Seattle this next week, will they be the last team standing that hasn't won a game? Is it that bad?
Well, there are the Bears. And the Lions are
There's always the Bears.
That should be the Lions slogan. We're not as bad as the Bears.
The Lions and Bears play in Week 6, and there is a very good chance that it will be the 0-5 Detroit Lions against the 0-5 Chicago Bears at Ford Field in Week 6. And, I mean, whew.
Sounds like Bears and Lions. Sounds like a Dr. Seuss book.
Can't wait to see the posters for that one. By the way, tell Big Play Slay to introduce himself in a different way next time, all right? Michael, appreciate your time.
That was great.
Hey, anytime, guys.
All right,
we hope you'll join us the week of the Bears-Lions game. The big showdown.
And everybody can read Michael at ESPN.com. He writes about the Detroit Lions. And Twitter handle, Michael?
At Mike Rothstein.
All right. Wonderful. Thanks, Mike.
Have a great week.
Hey, anytime, guys.
All right. Michael Rothstein of ESPN.com. All of our guests brought to you live by Papa John's. We're going to eat some pizza in just a second here.
Oh, I tell you, the brownies
Better
especially
ingredients,
good today.
better pizza, Papa John's.
When you go to buy a car, what do you really want? You probably want a lot of cars to choose from. And you want the dealership's best price. Not some starting price or target price, the best price. And you want it immediately, not after hours of negotiating. And you want a salesperson who doesn't get paid more if you spend more. Because, well, you don't want to spend more. Well, you're in luck. John Elway wants all of those things too. Better yet, John Elway wants you to have all of those things too. Come see us or click on johnelwaychevrolet.com.